And they're over here. Are you guys ready? Want me to quiet seat? Okay. Can I get your attention? Thank you. Thank you. I'm just going to give a quick welcome here. Those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Rob Beard, Mayor of the City of Westport, and it's a wonderful turnout. Thank you so much. Good to see everybody here. So on behalf of the City of Westport, I welcome you tonight and thank you for coming and being involved in this process. Tonight is an opportunity for our community to learn about the Westport Golf Project and hear an update as to what is currently happening in the process, and to ask questions and to discuss any concerns that our citizens may have. So input from our community is very important. So don't be shy. We like to hear what everybody has to say. So once again, we thank you for coming to learn about the project and participating. I'm now going to turn this over to Parks Development Director, Heather Saunders.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for coming. It's wonderful to be here today, and we appreciate this opportunity to give you an update about Westport Light State Park and the proposed Scottish Link style golf course. I'd first like to take an opportunity to welcome all of you that are in attendance. This is a fantastic turnout. As the mayor said, please, speak up and let us know what you're thinking. I know it's been a long time since we first introduced this idea, and everybody is eager for an update. I want to first make some introductions. I want to make sure to welcome two of our Parks Commissioners that are here tonight. Our Chair, Commissioner Mark Brown, is here. If you want to show everybody who you are. Then we also have our Vice Chair, Commissioner Ken Bounds from Seattle. I'm sorry, I meant to. Thank you both for being here and for demonstrating your interest in this process and in hearing public feedback. I also didn't know if there were any other elected officials in the room that want to self-identify other than the mayor.
We have council.
Yeah. Yeah, feel free to introduce yourselves.
Rose Jensen, City Council.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other takers?
Executive Director of Commerce.
Okay, so forgive me because I'll be going from putting my reading glasses down and trying to read my remarks to also seeing all of you, so bear with me. So I'm Heather Saunders. I am freshly the Parks Development Director at Parks. I've been at Parks since February, and I've been in this role for less than 2 weeks. So I'm very new to this project, so take it easy on me. I was lucky enough to have a great visit out to the site today with our park manager, Miles Wenzel, who's here, and just got to see the beauty of the site. I also have our Deputy Director with us, Mike Sternbeck. And then I've been asked the folks that you see sitting in front of you to introduce yourself. John, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm John Shaw. I'm the Executive Director at the Westport South Beach Historical Society.
Kevin Goodrich, Public Works Director from the City of Westport.
Ryan Day with Westport Golf. And Mark Merkelbach, helping Ryan manage the project.
Can you transition the slides for me? Okay. So briefly, what's the agenda for tonight? I'm going to spend a few minutes reviewing the project purpose and the process. I'll also spend some time describing, reading glasses. the environmental and economic analyses that have been completed and how you can access that information. I'm going to hand it off to Kevin, who's going to make some remarks for the city of Westport. From there, the folks from Westport Golf are going to walk you through their concept for the golf course, amenities, and other park infrastructure. They'll also share the findings of the economic impact analysis. And then I'll wrap it up with next steps in the process and how you can continue to be engaged going forward. There is a lot of material to get through. We think it'll probably be about 30 minutes, 40 minutes of a presentation. So if you could hold your questions or comments until the end, we'd appreciate it. Also, it's a large crowd and we want to be respectful that everybody can hear and make sure that there's an opportunity, there's going to be opportunities to comment. So just be mindful of each other. Okay. Yes.
We've got 85 people in the room, and they're asking that we speak loudly into the microphone.
Okay.
No, we've got 85 people online.
Did you guys hear? We have 85 people also in attendance online. So again, a terrific showing. And I will try to talk louder. I'm sorry for you folks. Okay, so State Parks was first approached by Ryan Day in 2018 regarding an idea to construct a Scottish link style golf course with lodging and associated facilities at the park. And since then, we've been working in partnership to explore the feasibility of this idea. So what have been the steps that we've been undergoing or that we need to take going into the future? Conducting environmental analyses to better understand sort of the natural conditions at the site and the habitat at the park. Conducting a site opportunities and constraints analysis related to the proposed project. So what are the challenges, what are the opportunities? Developing a site plan for the proposed golf course and the associated amenities, which you're going to hear about tonight. Ensuring that proper permitting and regulatory issues and steps are addressed and completed through a public regulatory process, including an environmental impact statement, which I'll describe a little bit. And then consideration by our Parks Commission of the findings of the regulatory process and a long-term concession agreement with Westport Golf to develop, maintain, and operate a golf course park. Okay. All right, I only have a couple slides. So, as I stated, we've done multiple studies at the park. This includes a coastal study report, habitat report, hydrologic report, restoration feasibility study, vegetation surveys on both the north and south ends of the park, a wetland assessment report, and a wetland discipline report. We've learned a lot about the site, and that's part of what we've been doing in the intervening time. But because we wanted to spend most of our time tonight sharing the status of the project and where things are at and what's going to happen next, we're not going to go into a lot of detail about what we found through these reports. We did in November spend 2 hours with our Parks Commission sharing the findings of these things, and we recorded it. You can access that video, you can watch it, you can get access to all of these reports on our website, this link. Okay. That's what I have to say. I also wanted to note that our regulatory and natural resources experts aren't here tonight. So if there are questions and comments about any of these studies, we can take your questions. I might not be able to answer all of them. I'm 2 weeks on the job, remember? But we'll take it back to get answers for you later. And I did want to note that because of these studies, we do know that there are very important environmental considerations at the site. There's interdunal wetlands, there's rare habitats and species, and we know there's risks with coastal erosion. So all of these issues are really important. They must and they will be considered and addressed as the concept is refined and as we go through our permitting and regulatory process and through any subsequent Parks Commission action. Westport Golf is going to spend time today talking about the economic analysis, so you'll hear about that. And I just wanted to say some personal remarks. You know, in my short time here, I've heard some frustration about the process and questions about why it's taking so long. I want you to know that I'm aware, the Parks Commission is aware, state park staff are aware that this is a very important concept and idea to the folks of this community and the city. And so we've been working with the city of Westport and with the folks you see here to figure out ways we might accelerate this process. And so we're working on revising some of our agreements. We'll be covering what those next steps look like. And I just want to say these are great people to work with. I really enjoyed getting to know everybody and I feel good about the working relationships that we have. So I'm going to hand it over to Kevin, who's going to give some remarks for the city, and then I'll talk to you all later.
Thank you, Heather. Just a few things. As Heather mentioned, we've been working closely with parks in Westport Golf now for, gosh, going on 5 years. Well, from when we first started talking about this, 3 at least. And it's been a good process, challenging for sure sometimes. And it's been an ever-changing landscape. I think, as we all know, this is a project of great significance for our community. I mean, and Ryan and I were talking the other day, we called it maybe a generational project for our community. But very different from any previous golf course projects that have been proposed in the past. This one's been done, in my mind, the right way. It's been done transparently, although we haven't always done a great job of getting information out to the public. We're following all the steps to make sure we don't try and sidestep environmental regulations. We don't try and sidestep what's best for the land. Moving forward, the city is going to be the permitting jurisdiction for the shoreline permitting, and looking like we're also going to take more of a lead role in the SEPA, the environmental process there. So we'll work with Westport Golf and Parks on that. That involves very close communication with the Department of Ecology and also the Army Corps of Engineers. So fortunately, we have good relationships there, and we'll continue to work with those agencies because ultimately they're the regulators that say this project can or can't happen. Lots of work to be done for sure. In my mind, and I think I can speak for the city on this, doing nothing or taking no action here really isn't an option for us. I think we all agree that that park property is kind of a cornerstone of Westport, right? And we want to see it become an accessible, usable, economic component of our community. And we think a golf course probably gets us there as good as any other project that's been proposed. Lots of environmental things still to look at. We're not going to ignore those. And in talking to Ryan and Westport Golf, we think a golf course could potentially enhance and improve some of those environmental components out there. Wetlands are important. We understand. We want to preserve them. We want to enhance them. Maybe this project can get us there, and people can go out and enjoy that property more so than we can now. Some folks like to walk the trails out there. Some folks feel uncomfortable walking those trails out there. The whole idea of state park property and being a steward of state park property is making it accessible to people. So I think a project like this, while golf is a component, these guys will address here in a little bit, that's not the only component. And I think that's what makes this project really compelling. I guess with that, I'll hand it over to Ryan and let them take over. And after this, if you have any questions for me on the city side, I'm happy to speak to you then. Thank you.
It's really good to be back. It's been too long. It's been 3 years. And actually, we've got a lot of people here. I'm curious if I could get a show of hands on how many people were here 3 years ago when we had a meeting in the Costin Hall. So good, probably 50%. That's good. So I'm gonna march back a little bit for those of you that weren't here to kind of give you a little bit of backstory of how we got to this point. As Heather mentioned, we approached Parks in 2018 about bringing a Scottish link style golf course to the Pacific coast, to Washington's coast, and an opportunity unlike potentially any other in the United States on this piece of property. And it's an unusually unique piece of land. I think when you look at it environmentally and what we feel like from the city of Westport, but when you look at it from the lens of golf, it's got an unbelievable opportunity to create something that you only see in the British Isles. And we could have that here in Westport, which we saw as an opportunity to be an economic driver and community enhancement for the city of Westport. And that was the impetus on presenting our concept to the parks. I often hear this thing identified as a Scottish link style golf course project. it's not just that. And as we've gone through this project and early on, it's more of park enhancement, accessibility, and community development. And that's really what this project is about. And I really have to tip my hat to the folks from the city of Westport. You guys, this community is lucky to have the leadership you have in place. These are dedicated, hardworking, intelligent people, and I've been nothing but impressed through the process. So. Something else that should be recognized is our group that we brought together to privately fund all of this development and the studies and work with parks to identify what's out there, what can be done, and ultimately present to you some concept plans for your input today. We're not just idly sitting on the sidelines. I was talking to Mike earlier, several of us, I think 5 of our group have purchased property, my wife and my family. We recently purchased property and have started spending time here. We are eager to become active members of this community, and we've been embraced. And, Jordan at the Blue Moon, I see sitting over here, and we've worked with Greg and Jill from Capture, Share, Repeat, met many of the locals around here, and have felt nothing but welcome. So we feel very blessed to be a part of this community, and look forward to more of that. So the purpose of tonight is to present what's taken 3 years. You might ask yourself, why has this taken 3 years? I ask myself that sometimes. It's complicated. It's a difficult process. And if we were to break it down into general terms, it took about a year for us to figure out what we needed to find out, who we needed to find out from, who we would hire as consultants to do that work. And then about another year for those consultants to do a tremendous amount of study on the piece of property. And then about another year for us to take all that information together and work on a plan with the city and the Parks Department to come up with what we're going to present to you. And I have to remind everybody that this is a work in progress. Is this a perfect plan that we're presenting tonight? No. It is a culmination of all of these studies and opportunities and pathways to potentially get this project through the regulatory process. Part of that process is getting your input, and we value it. And we're going to take that information and put that into our concept master plan as we move forward. So this isn't the last of our public engagement meetings. This is the second of many, but we are eager and looking forward to working with everybody here, the ultimate stakeholders in this project. So I thank you. I'm going to bring Mark up. So Mark Merkelbach he wears a lot of hats in our organization. We have one person that's not here, David Dix, who's our land use attorney, we rely on heavily, and he's been an integral part of this. He tore his Achilles tendon, and the only time he could get his operation was today. So cautionary tale for anyone over 50, if you haven't played tennis in 15 years. But we miss David, who is here in spirit. Mark is our wetland biologist, and he's a technology guy who wears many hats, and he's going to communicate the results and we're both going to kind of jump in here and talk about the slides that we're going to put forward here, but the results of these studies and our draft concept plan. Cool.
Thanks, Ryan. And as I said, I always like to kind of thank Parks, because it's been a huge overload of information and data and synthesis. And Westport funded this, but it was driven by the Parks Department. They're the ones that sought out, found the consultants, and managed that process to kind of create total transparency. So Heather and Mike, much appreciate your support in this. And it's just a start. So this is where we are, and there's multiple revisions, but this is kind of what we call the current site plan. And as Ryan said, is that through the evolution of this project, this plan is going to evolve, and it's going to change. We're going to get comments from you folks. But all we're doing is trying to kind of lay down kind of the foundation. And then from then we can make tweaks as we go along. So some things that kind of like to point out is, you know, the laser pointer. And I also want to understand that the folks that are watching this via Zoom can't see what I'm displaying, but I'll do my best to explain. So the project itself encompasses about a total of about 220 acres. That's roughly about 1/3 of the total site. The remainder of the site will remain intact and hopefully through this project preserved and some aspects of it will be protected. Along the perimeter is the 18-hole Scottish Links golf course, and it basically is a consecutive loop. You start on number 1, which is right here along the east side. The course kind of works its way to the coast. It runs north and then it circles back and loops back. One of the key things about a links course, it's a walking course. There's not cart paths. This is really about a dedicated experience, a 4.5 hour journey walking through the landscape and also, you know, kind of experiencing the beauty of the park, feeling the ocean and the environment, all those environmental conditions. In the north half of the park are 2 different types of programs. The one in yellow here is a golf range. This is going to have 2 sides to it. One is basically an open to the public range year round that maybe have amenities and grills and some covered things so you can get through it. And then more of a traditional golf range that's going to be targeted to people that are coming to the resort and play it. And then a short course. And the short course is, it'll be about 13 holes, par 3 style course. It ends up becoming an introduction to new golfers. And then it also ends up becoming just kind of an additional golf experience to both the guys that constantly want to get out there and hit more balls. Now, the range and the short course are reoccupying places that were disturbed during the previous project that happened in the north. So we're purposely locating the position of the holes and these facilities. We're trying to stay a majority in the upland areas, understanding there's comprehensive wetland complexes, and where we need to potentially move inward. We're trying to reoccupy spaces that were previously disturbed. Other things to note is, you know, a lot of these little blow-up icons, all they are is conceptual areas for potential gathering, maybe areas to create new amenities. And I'll just kind of walk you through it. And number one, this course was designed by David McClay Kidd, who will be speaking towards the end. But David and his team have been involved in some of the top golf courses in the world. And his team also has experience with really challenging, complex sites like Westport. This Macrahanish Dunes course in Scotland was in one of the most protected areas in Scotland. They had endangered species, they had these really rare environments. And his team was able to kind of work with the local officials, built a natural style golf course. They had a lot of conditions. They had to use natural grasses. They had to have a very minimal irrigation component. It needed to almost use no fertilizer. So there were a lot of strict controls to really create that balance by creating a world top class experience, but also really having this environmental awareness and trying to achieve some type of balance. So with that balance, you know, our team here, you know, this design of this project is driven by the science. And as Ryan said, it was about a 1.5 years getting these studies and really understanding the site. You know, our key ethos in this project is about avoidance and minimization. That's kind of a key requirement to go through the entire wetland permitting process, is showing the efforts we're taking. But we also know as this project would evolve and we go and switch operations, there are going to be kind of these key programs that are going to be kind of perpetuate through the project. There's going to be long-term water quality monitoring. There are these integrated pest management plans to deal with the allocation of fertilizers and other factors that contribute to the health of the golf course, but don't degrade the adjacent environment. Invasive species is a big topic of concern. There's going to be pretty much a park-wide programmatic program where the park itself is going to be one of the key resources used to control and eradicate invasives. It'll also help protect the interior of the area through the park is almost serving as a buffer to its more intact wetland units. And, you know, we do recognize that there will be wetland impacts that we can't avoid. So what we will be doing is looking at opportunities on site for expansion of existing wetland areas and enhancement, and then also looking at offsite properties in order to meet our mitigation obligations. And as an example, you know, in 2020, just a year ago, this was kind of an older alignment of where the golf program could be. And through the baseline studies, you'll see that we already are making changes in order to avoid more of these higher wetland unit areas. We're trying to create, tighten up the golf program, working with the golf course designer to once again avoid and minimize. And that's kind of every step of the way is, you know, we're very aware of what's happening in the interior. We're also aware of what's going on along the coast. And, you know, these areas, the coastline, those dunes, the four dunes, not only to protect the city, they also protect the park. So we are going to look through opportunities by using this project to help with the natural recruitment of wood and to kind of respect the coastal processes. So we want to kind of give you kind of a couple snapshots of just themes. These are all our ideas, nothing set in stone, but I kind of wanted to start in the north, basically the north corner of the site near the parking lot. And so what we've kind of are thinking about is in the parks, it's also mentioned, is expansion of parking facilities. So the summertime, it's bumper to bumper. It's even for some emergency vehicles, it's tough to get in and out. So there is definitely room for expansion of the parking. We are going to be bringing on a transportation consultant to really help define what does it mean by expansion, how many more cars can these areas accommodate, how does that affect traffic patterns. So that's on the way, but we're just kind of giving you some insight of the directions we're heading. And so we're also looking at improving beach access. So right now there's all these different access points. Some of them are going these road gullies. So how do we maybe create better, safer access to the beach, maybe open up the park in different areas in a safe manner? And then also, very important is this north-south trail, which will remain, but it would potentially will be augmented. So it basically feather through some of the golf program, but we really do understand how important that is to the community to maintain that trail and the importance that is just the daily routine of the city. So there's a high level of awareness. So, you know, what are some ideas or themes? You know, Chambers Bay is one example of how they reconfigured the north-south trail along the coastline and kind of work it within the golf course, almost creating two separate programs. It's the golfers don't necessarily see the pedestrians don't see the golfers. There's portions where they reveal each other's, but there's kind of these separate programs. This is all we're just using this for some ideas or inspiration, but that's kind of, you know, those are some ideas we're throwing out there. Some of these accessible boardwalks or accessible access points to the beach to create more formalized entry points, ones that are available to all people that want to get access and experience the beach are ideas. And then there will be opportunities to potentially bring additional infrastructure, additional trails that come inside the park for the people that want to see more of that interior of these interdunal areas and experience even some of the wildlife viewing. So amenities is one big thing that Ryan's been pushing here. And specifically on the north, with the high amount of visitors, we're talking about these, the landscape architect mentioned these community gathering spots, and it could mean a fire pit. It could mean for sure a kiosk. So this kiosk basically is open to everybody. It's open to the surfers, the beachgoers, and the golfers. And this would also be kind of around the turn. So that would be, you know, the turn on the golf course is between the 9th and like the 13th hole. So that would be a perfect location, not only to kind of host folks in the parking lot, but the golfers as well. So these are just things we're throwing out and things that we think would not only benefit the golf program, but the community at large. As we kind of shift a little bit to the east, we're still along Jetty Eagle Road. These two areas here are where the golf range and where the short course would go. And there would also be some additional parking to accommodate those facilities. this area is, for the golfer, these are just really convenient add-ons to have, but also it creates an entryway to new golfers. It creates instruction, it creates practice, it creates some other cool activity to do within Westport. Ryan, I'm going to have you kind of talk a little bit about like what are some of your ideas specific to the range, to the short course.
Yeah, so we get questions a lot about what this experience that we're providing, what that looks like, and what the demographic is. And so that we're not servicing, we're trying to attract one demographic, and how do we make this affordable? And we talked about preferred rates for locals and people of Grace Harbor, and having really inclusive experience for everybody. Well, the driving range, one of the concepts that we're strongly considering is anybody here heard of Topgolf? Familiar with it? Not very many. So Topgolf is, you take bowling and a driving range experience and combine them. That's Topgolf. So in my first meeting, I talked about wanting to bring back biking bowl. This is as close as I can get now until we get to that. But it's basically where you gather. It's not a very expensive entry point. People gather and have a few beers and some nachos and hit golf balls and get data back and play games with each other. It's a nice soft entry point. We in the golf world that are trying to encourage the growth of the game. Anyone that plays golf might be familiar with the term shot euphoria. It's when you hit your first really solid golf shot and you feel fantastic about it and you want to do it more. Well, that's how we key it. And this top range, top golf experience is that. And then, having a short course, which is also a soft, easy entry point. These are very casual methodologies of being introduced to the game. The stricter etiquette is gone. It's a more social experience. You'll often see on a short course groups of 8, 12 people out just having a great time. There's music usually, and just it's a fun, easy entry into the world of golf. And these are some photos of some similar. That's a short course over there, and then I'm not sure what we got going on. It looks like a little bit like Topgolf, but anyway, so that gives you a concept of what we're proposing from all different. And then of course, the championship golf course is the large piece on the more southern portion, but that pretty much covers it.
Thanks, Ryan. So kind of working down towards the interior a little bit. So the range itself is going to have two kind of entry points. One is what we talked about, kind of more of an entertainment focus and more amenities. The interior of the range is pretty much your standard traditional range, and these will be for folks playing the championship course or just wanting to get some more practice in a more grass refined manner. At this point, every golf course needs to have golf facilities and a clubhouse and other supportive buildings. So potentially right now it would be an off park property, and potentially this would be the location of where a traditional clubhouse would be with some parking and support facilities. But right now, no buildings besides kiosks are planned to be on the park site. It's going to be off-site on private properties. Last but not least, right now these are just basically placeholders for trails. And one thing in talking with folks is the park really does lack these connections on how to bring connecting from the city and coming to the beach. So this will be continuing to be worked on and involved. But it's really understanding what's the best location for bringing trails, for bringing more of an east to west or east to west access into the site and create better linkages and create better mobility throughout the site. And this project's also about looking at public infrastructure improvements and upgrades. So, this project not only is opportunities for investment within the park itself, but it's also looking at investment on some of the adjacent properties. The lighthouse really is a cornerstone. It's kind of this historical beacon of the project. And there is actually port access to that lighthouse. So we will be also looking at how this park project can be used as an incubator to potentially extend Surf Street and create better access and safer access to people visiting the lighthouse. So I'm going to switch this off to Brian, who's going to kind of just circle back to the economic study.
Okay, so when we made our presentation 3 years ago, we talked about the potential of economic impact and what it might do for the immediate community in Westport, Grace Harbor, and the state in general. And so we actually decided to hire a professional to do an economic analysis of what the proposed golf course and operations would provide for the area. What we found we use Seeger Consulting to so there's a one-time economic impact during construction of the project of $55.6 million and 349 jobs in the state. Most of those obviously occurring in the community of Westport. It's a very significant number. When we talk about job creation, these are more temporary one-time hits, but as we go into operations, we look at 303 permanent jobs. Oh, sorry. That's not leaning. We're looking at a nearly $30 million annual economic impact, 25 of that in the community here in Grace Harbor. And those are over 300 full-time jobs that are directly and indirectly created by the economic activity of building this golf course and operating it. That doesn't include the potential of future investment in the community, which we anticipate with a project of this size. So we just see the opportunity doing nothing but expanding over time. An operation like this, I know John spoke to the mayor of Bandon, and what's Bandon, Oregon, where Bandon Dunes is, which is the other golf course that one of the other golf courses that David McClay Kidd has done. The impact has been ongoing for nearly 30 years now, and it's been a tremendous positive impact for their community. So as you can see, it's significant. And Kevin and I have spoken many times as far as what this specifically means for the city of Westport. This is potentially doubling the annual revenues that the city takes in. And what does that mean? More services. What I love, I've talked to the mayor, and he's like, "Oh, it's more sidewalks and ball fields," which is the best small town message you can get. So I love the concept of it. And for us to be a part of something that could have that sort of impact in the community is very meaningful. These are the breakdown of the numbers. I keep doing this. This is all public, and if you guys want to delve into the numbers, and you can ask me after to go into this in more detail. But as you can see, it is a significant impact to both the state and locally in Grace Harbor. So local job generation, we touched on that, but we talked about this golf course being a walking golf course, and there's probably not enough sort of light shown on how great these caddy jobs are. They can be a full-time job that provides a steady, good income. And it's also a wonderful part-time job for either second jobs or kids in high school or kids that go to Grace Harbor Community College. These guys on a typical loop, as you can see, make between 100 a loop golf return, round of golf. They can make $125 to $150, and you'll see guys in Bandon that'll double bag it, put 2 bags on their shoulders. They'll make $300 in a 4-hour round of golf. And it's part of the experience. It's part of the ethos of what we're trying to present in the link style of golf, is that you walk the golf course. And the relationships that players and caddies build over time. I was talking to Ryan Campbell, who follows a Bandon caddy on Instagram. It's a tremendous opportunity to network, meet people, and it's a unheralded sometimes profession, and very much appreciated by folks that get to experience it. First, one of the things I haven't mentioned, I didn't, so one of our partners in this, in our project that we brought aboard is Troon Golf, which is one of the largest golf course operation managers in the country, worldwide. So they have, is it over 600 properties worldwide? And part of the reason why we've decided to partner with Troon is they already know how to do all this stuff. They know how to start the first tee programs, the first green programs in agronomy, how to start caddy programs, so that when we get this built, we can hit the ground running. There's not a lot of time trying to figure out how to get these things and how to recruit them. There are systems and process in place to start these job creations and the community involvement, and getting juniors involved and making this an inclusive experience. Is that it? So we're gonna go to David? Okay, so David McClay Kidd, who we've referenced earlier, is a world-renowned golf architect, credited with building really the renaissance of golf back in the mid-90s at Banyan Dunes, which has turned out to be a tremendous success and has really changed golf course design since then into this more environmentally friendly, minimalist approach. It's not a contrived architecture, it's finding the golf course in the land and uncovering it. And that fits in so well with our concept and our approach. So he couldn't be here, but he did record a 4-minute. You want to just do it? Thank you, Ryan.
Good evening, Westport. My name is David McClay Kidd. I'm very sorry I'm not able to make it tonight, and I am a golf course architect. I've been working with the Westport Golf team for the last couple of years, designing and working through the process of permitting for the Westport Links golf course. I'm originally from Scotland. My father was a golf course superintendent, or greenkeeper as we call them in Scotland. I got my big break back in the 90s as the architect and builder of the first golf course at Banyan Dunes. Subsequently, I've built a number of other golf courses that are similarly minimalist and naturalist with a very light hand on the landscape. The only one I've done in the state of Washington is Gamble Sands. It's often regarded as one of the best golf courses in the state. We've done a number of others, most recently Mammoth Dunes, a resort called Sand Valley that's owned by the same ownership as Banyan Dunes. Again, there we took a landscape that originally was pine oak savanna and we restored it. We worked with the environmental consultants to bring back a landscape that had been long lost in the planting of commercial timber. So everything that we do, everything that we are about is about playing golf through a landscape and respecting it. There are only a couple of hundred true links golf courses in the entire world. What is links? It's golf played on sand next to an ocean, especially golf played on sand that was reclaimed from the ocean. The old course at St Andrews, all the golf courses at St Andrews on the links are just at its best will protect the environment, not threaten. And that's what the golf course at Westport can do. We'll also bring golfers from all over the Northwest and beyond. And those golfers will come hopefully with their families. They'll enjoy Westport. They will stay, they will eat, they will buy, and they will leave. The park at Westport covers well over 600 acres. The golf course will barely cover 100 acres. And yet 100 acres sensitively constructed and then maintained will be the impetus to protect and enhance the other 500 acres. Some examples where golf has come to a somewhat remote community and done nothing but good, provided employment, brought more money, protected the environment in the long term. And I think Westport can do all of this. I think that it will not be nothing other than a net positive for the landscape of the community. And I'd be thrilled to be part of its creation and see how it stimulates growth in the town as more people find it and enjoy it. So as our process continues and Westport Links moves slowly, albeit hopefully towards permitting and then construction, I sincerely hope that you will all support the group that's behind this, and we'll quickly move forward to making this a reality. Thank you.
Well, I'm not exactly sure how I'm supposed to follow that. So this is the last slide that we have, and I had a lot of remarks to go into greater detail about what each of these next steps are. But I think Mark did a really great job of sort of covering the sort of regulatory considerations that we're going to be having, environmental considerations, additional analyses that we're going to be doing. So this is just to say, this is what's coming next. And I did also just want to make sure that you all knew what the Parks Commission role will be in this. And so once the plan has been completed and the environmental impact statement is completed, staff will ask the Parks Commission to affirm the findings of the regulatory process and approve delegation authority to our director to go into a concession agreement with Westport Golf. And so if the commission affirms and approves of these changes, staff will draft a concessionaire agreement that would allow Westport Golf to move forward with construction and operation. So we're happy to answer questions about next steps in more detail, but I think you probably would like to get to the open comment period. So I'm going to lay a few ground rules. These are, as I said, these are the end of our prepared. Oh, let me also say thank you to the mayor for your introductory remarks. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you to Kevin for your remarks. Yes. Thank you to Ryan and Mark also for what you shared, your vision for this life. I want to say that I see and feel the energy, and I appreciate all the attention that you all are giving to this. Okay, so for the comment and discussion period, please keep in mind that we might not be able to answer every question. We are going to do our best. If State Parks doesn't have an answer to a question, we'll figure it out in order to be able to respond. We have a large crowd, and I want everybody to have a chance to speak and from various points of views, for various points of views to be shared. So we kindly ask that you keep your comments to 2 minutes or less. If someone has asked a question or made a statement, please refrain from asking it again. And we know that there are differences of opinion, so based on feedback to date. So just be respectful and kind to each other. We've got the room till 8, and we look forward to hearing from you. And I think your son is going to help us pass the mic around. So Henry, is it Henry? Yeah. Thank you, Henry. This mic. And just really quickly, I see that Laura Moxon is in the audience, and I just wanted to acknowledge you because you helped shepherd this process through Parks for 3 years, and it's nice to see you here to see what's happening with it. All right, it's a big job. You got it? All right. All right, I see you down in the back. We're also have to run back and forth.
Hello, and thank you. My back's kind of bad, so I'm gonna sit down. My name is Paul Foster, and I'm the store manager of England Marine Supply in Westport, Washington. Our address is 101 West Wilson, which is an adjacent property to this proposed course. With the blessing of John and Kurt England, they support this this course. We have 7 retail locations. We've been in family business for 79 years. And we have a store in Coos Bay, Charleston, which directly affected our business and Bandon Dunes. And that's all I really want to say. Thank you.
I think the most fun will be watching Henry try to.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Catherine Marcel from Westport Aquarium. So I want to say thank you for all showing up because I think that's really important. It's wonderful to see such a good turnout. Whatever your decision is or whatever you support, just the turnout is awesome. These are public lands, first and foremost. And also, this is not the Scottish Link Golf Course. The whole definition, if you look at almost all of the websites that come up first, it's for a coastal sand dune area. If you drive today, I drove the perimeter of the Westport Light Golf Course, or Westport Light. Currently, it's the Westport Light State Park and the West Haven State Park, the John Hall Jetty Road, that they're also planning to approach. There are trees all the way around. And if you go on the back part, there's flooding and a ditch. Furthermore, we have a couple of areas recently on our local coast here that have dealt with extreme erosion. When you take away those trees, you are setting yourself up for a big expense of a lot of erosion. And if you look at Tokeland, it's a lot of money to fix that. A lot. And just the other day, I was driving to the doctor's office and it looked like the waves just went right over it. So all that money, and it might not do much, but the road I drove on, there were trees right along that road. So far, it hasn't been wiped out, maybe parts, but the main part hasn't. So I want you to consider that very carefully when you go and you change the landscape. All right, thank you.
Hi, Sam Campo. I'm new to Westport. Ryan and I have been here about a year. Thanks. Everyone's been super welcoming. And originally we were from the East Coast, the Carolinas. We're really well known for golf courses. we have a lot of them. I grew up with them in my town, and some of them you may have heard of, like like Augusta or Hilton Head. And those are the success stories, but there's others that aren't success stories. They had a few good years and then the public lost interest. And so I'm wondering who picks up the bill if interest is lost, because unlike Bandon or Gerhardt, we aren't on the way to anything. You have to come here on purpose. And so that's one question. And the other one is kind of about the environmental impact again. Just, I want to make sure that we're staying above water. So thank you.
Should I go over here? Sam, thanks, Sam. So I think kind of a two-part question. The longevity or economic viability of the golf course is a concern. Yeah, so first off, I mean, as obviously the proponent behind the project, obviously we're planning for success. And part of that is by hiring and working with David McClay Kidd, who has a long track record of success. In fact, I don't think he has a single golf course in his portfolio that's done nothing but succeed. And you mentioned Bandon as an example. Much of the point is Bandon is not a well-traveled destination. And our intent is to make Westport a much more well-traveled destination. So by investing into this resource, we believe that doing it right and thoughtfully, it's going to be a long-term success. And, golf courses, I sometimes get a question about, I hear about golf courses closing all the time. Is golf dying? And I have to compare it sometimes to, restaurants close all the time too. Restaurants dying, it's the same kind of concept. Restaurants go in and out of favor. And what you see mostly on the golf course that close over time there's a couple of things that are either not invested into enough or the dirt becomes worth more than the operation. So you'll see privately owned operations that it just is not economically smart to hold on to a piece of dirt that is worth so much money. And that's why you see a lot of golf courses close. We believe that we have a team between David McClay Kidd, Broom Golf, and our group of investors that's going to put together a world-class operation that's going to attract people for generations.
Good evening, everybody. Excuse me. My name is Corey. And during your PowerPoint tonight, talked about encouraging some driftwood to maybe preserve, protect your investment, and to maybe maintain the shoreline or accelerate accretion. I preface this with I support your endeavor. Just wanted to know, I may not be the only one concerned, but the proximity to the jetty. Is anyone concerned? Maybe not at all. Thanks for the question. That this could compromise the waves. That so many surfers come here and spend the money and generate money for the economy. So it's just anyway, I guess it's just protecting the waves and protecting the economy that the surfing community provides.
I appreciate that. And I'm a surfer too, and I come to Westport and I understand how important that sand is, maintaining those bars, maintaining the waves. From our standpoint, and it was acknowledged that there is erosion, and part of this next 3 months is kind of doing a more targeted coastal analysis, looking at the course, and really it's also about protecting their investment, right? All these links courses is about maintaining the natural character. It's about maintaining the natural shoreline. It's, you'll notice that we're actually pushed on the backside of the Ford end. So there's no golf. Very few, if any, golf holes are going to have a direct light silent distance to the ocean because we're going to be actually at a lower elevation because that Ford end is going to stay in place. We're not touching it. And going back to the study that we're going to be doing is really going to give us a lifetime. It's going to say, where do we need to be? How far back beyond the ocean, beyond that Ford end, do we need to be where Ryan and his group feels comfortable that that's where the golf course is going to be, and that's where it's going to be for a long enough period of time where we can equally coexist, leave the waves to the surfers and allow them to basically do what they've been doing for decades behind, maybe add some additional amenities with a parking lot. So, there's a little bit more, maybe creating more amenities, but I hear you loud and clear. And the issue with the recruitment is, I only say that because, there is, if you look in the coastal beaches, there is naturally recruited wood. It's not like we're dumping wood on the beaches, but Parks right now is making an effort to keep some of that wood on the beaches. And if you look at other beaches, it's already there. So it's really about helping maintain and sustain the natural process. That would be intent of that slide. So appreciate it.
Yeah, like there's like a mechanism to encourage more wood or change landscaping, certain things
Got it.
It's my understanding, I've had the pleasure of being able to hang out with John Shaw a lot over the last few months, and he's a tremendous wealth of knowledge for the history of Westport and Grace Harbor. And my understanding from him is that the denuding of the beach and removal of that driftwood is something it's on Parks radar as a problem. There isn't, I mean, if you go walk on the beach, there just really isn't very much. And it's a natural barrier to erosion. There's also some Army Corps of engineering behavior that goes on annually as part of their mandate, which also helps keep the health of that beach and the sand. I don't know, what do you call it, renourishment? Beach nourishment, which is part of their annual dredging behavior. So all of it works in concert together. And the surf community is obviously a top priority in maintaining and addressing some of the lack of facilities for us. So it's part of the whole experience that we're trying to promote.
Hi, my name is Ed Backholm, born and raised in Holden. I lived in Bandon, Oregon for 15 years. I have firsthand knowledge of the impact that David McClay Kidd's design had on the community. My business, I own a hotel in downtown Bandon. The restaurants, the retail, my business did nothing but grow over that period of time. This group proposing this development, along with the Washington State Parks, is a great combination to make sure it's done right. And I think golfers around the world will see a David McClay Kidd design and put it on their bucket list. Golfers are a special breed. They spend money. It's all about the experience, not just playing golf, but the experience of the community. And I can only say that I've got Grace Harbor in my blood. I think this proposal is a gift to Westport and to Grace Harbor County and the state of Ohio.
Hi, I'm Linda Dunn. I'm a property owner in Westport. I'm very supportive of the golf course, and I watched a lot of the presentations that have been given to the commission. One of the things that comes up over and over when I talk to people around town is they say, well, it sounds great, but who are they going to get to work there? Where are these people going to live? Are you going to provide any kind of housing for your staff? You know, the restaurants around town have such a lot of trouble just getting enough staff and keeping enough staff. How are you going to address that issue?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. And it's a problem I'm looking forward to solving. But it is, I mentioned Ryan Whitney and Troon. That's why we partnered with one of the top international operators to manage this property, who has experience in recruitment, hiring. One of the questions is are there bus routes from Aberdeen? It's a long buildup to start a project like this, so we're going to have time to start getting the word out and recruiting staff and the type of people. But we're backed by a world-class organization that has experience in recruiting those folks. And obviously, we want the folks in Westport to have an opportunity. At least housing is an issue. We consider this as an opportunity for more investment in the community and create more housing. I think if you ask some of the area real estate folks, there's already been more interest in the area and more construction, more building. I think Kevin, where is Kevin? You know, more permits. So, you know, it'll take time for it to catch up, but there's an opportunity. You know, Westport's minutes from Aberdeen. I think there's a pretty big labor pool to pull from in Aberdeen and the surrounding areas. But like I said, I'm looking forward to working on that problem. We've got the right team to help address it.
I'm Harry Carthen. I never thought I'd say this, but I own the donut shop. I'm also the second worst golfer in the Grace Harbor County. One of the things about our community is, I should remind you that we're sitting in the first ever vertical evacuation structure in the Western Hemisphere, because the people of Westport voted to tax themselves to build this. And I agree with Echo. This is a gift to our community. This is something that will preserve the coastline. Years ago, I was on a committee where they actually talked about using the north end of this property to build oil derricks to be built on their site and floated out. They're going to bulldoze the whole thing, flatten it out, and they showed us pictures of what it would look like with those giant things on their side. And this will be a beautiful addition to our community. I can sell more donuts. I've read the study, and I told one of the people before, I think it underestimates the economic benefit to our entire community. Thank you.
My name is Nancy. I have a comment and a question. I'll start with a comment. I spent 3.5 years in Scotland working, and everybody over there towards golf. And I don't personally, but I never heard or saw any of the amenities that you guys are offering. So that in itself is an addition that is good for the whole community, and everybody can use it and appreciate it. And then along with our people that come in and our visitors, they too can appreciate it. My question is what are you going to do? And this maybe goes back to the mayor and the council members, as far as fire and police. We're definitely going to need more police. We're definitely going to need support with the fire departments.
Well, as Ryan mentioned, the amount of revenue, potential revenue that could come into the community through this project is huge. You know, it's all projected, but that's how. You know, our job will be to say, okay, now we've got this much revenue coming in, where does it go? And if housing increases and business increases, that means we need more police, more EMS. The RFA will be getting more taxes. That's one thing about this property right now. There's zero tax revenue off this property because it's exempt, right? So there'll be some sort of a tax agreement through this operation that will help boost that as well. So I think that will be addressed through that, but that's where we need everybody's input again, coming to planning commission meetings, coming to city council meetings, letting us know what's important to you, right? Because we get X amount of dollars and council has the hard job of deciding how those dollars get divvied up. So community input on making those decisions is really, really important. And wasn't part of your question, but I kind of did address it earlier. In the very first public meeting we had, somebody asked about our infrastructure and how could our infrastructure support a project like this. And I can tell you since that meeting in January, 3.5 years ago-ish, no, almost 4, we have done upgrades to our sanitary sewer system and are currently in the process of doing more upgrades. Our wastewater treatment facility capacity can more than handle this growth, plus the residential growth that may come with it. We were able to secure some funding through USDA rural development, drilled 2 new drinking water wells to keep our water system capacity up. And then one of the more exciting things that Ryan and I have talked about over the last few years is being able to take our wastewater treatment facilities effluent and treat that and turn that into reuse water for potential irrigation. So really the impacts on the city infrastructure are minimal. We'll do traffic and parking studies. We'll look through all those things, but I think Westport is really set up well to handle a project like this. And then I think we can also compensate for the needs of additional police, additional fire, things like that. So hopefully that answered your question.
I got a question. Okay. So I'm Keith Opuza, one of the residents. I'm a lifer here in the South Beach area. Yeah, I grew up in a Brown school over here. But I'm also part of our local fire and EMS, and I've done a few backpacks with patients off of some of our beaches, some of our longer routes that are just man-made, so to speak, in the sand dunes. This development is pretty big, and we've done quite a few EMS calls for the surfers and picnickers up there by the jetty. And some of those can be kind of taxing. But down inside, are you going to have like little rat trails for like a maintenance rig to go through?
Yeah. Well, so thank you for the question. So I mean, this is just, it's more illustrative purposes to show what the potential is for increased trails. Be curious to get your thoughts on the short pine forest in there and how the fire department feels about that, but access to potential forest issue that might happen there. But we look at this as an opportunity, obviously, for increased access throughout the entire park. So I don't want to call it rat trails. There will be, you know, you can see from the proposed area where the main resort area towards the driving range would have a significant pathway. But these are, you know, you saw some of the imagery that we had created significant trail systems for access to the interior park that don't exist right now. So I would imagine that, you know, during this planning process, there would be, I don't know, Kevin, you could probably speak to that better, but there would be definitely input that would be received from the fire department and EMS, all those services. So I can't imagine it not being better than it is right now because there's just too much there.
Nobody goes out there.
Well, we haven't found any.
Hi, I'm Alicia Gibson, General Manager of Bennett's Fish Shacks. We 100% support this golf course. We have two locations, one in Ocean Shores and one in Westport. A lot of visitors visit both locations. We talk to our guests all the time. Some of the biggest things that we hear about Westport is that we don't have the accommodations and the amenities that people want. This golf course is going to bring that. Like they said in the movie, if you build it, they will come. This is what we're looking for, guys.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan Peterson. My dad owns the Blue Buoy down at the marina. I'm sitting here with my sister, Erin. We've been together. Not only that, I coach the junior high volleyball program. She coaches the varsity program here at Acosta. I can't say enough how good this project would be for the youth of our community. Growing up here, I'm a lifer as well, and I will be the first to say that there is not a lot to do. This driving range that they're proposing, a Top Golf style, would be amazing for our community. It would bring people from all over Grace Harbor County to have a birthday party or to have their company holiday party. Places where we can still invest our money into our community. I have traveled as far as Hillsborough to go play Top Golf. It is a lot of fun. It would bring a lot of joy to people. Our community is in desperate need of somebody willing to give this to our community. This is a business owner and manager. This is going to do nothing but bring money into our businesses. It is a blessing. We can all say that even not having clam tides this winter has hurt and affected our businesses. And if we have something that is here year round, please bring the people to us because we need a destination, we need an attraction. Commercial fishing, charter fishing, we have that draw, but there is something that needs to be more. My family travels outside of Westport to find more fun because there is a lot more to do. I'm not saying I want Westport to turn into necessarily seaside or ocean shores. I want it to still be this little coastal community town where people still want the quietness of coming to our little slice of heaven without it becoming something more, So I want to say thank you. This is wonderful. I really hope that this goes through and I can't just say how much of a gift it is to our community.
I'd like to add a little something to what my sister had to say. My family is a lifetime family here in Westport. This is exciting. I mean, this is something that is just going to bring nothing but growth and boost our businesses. My father bought his businesses here in the 1970s. He owned a cannery, he owned a charter boat, a charter office, and a restaurant. Over the years, we weathered some really difficult economic times in this community. And I am so excited to see this come here and give those of us who have put in so much time, energy, and trying to make it something special. Right now, my sister and I, my brother and my dad, we run the Louis restaurant. This is going to help us boost our business. And I love this community. I love the school. I love the kids here. And I see this being something that can invest in our children, maybe make some new programs for our kids to have some things to do. Golf team in Okasta, hey, that would be pretty amazing. So anyway, I just thank you. Thank you for investing in our community. We appreciate you.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Craig Hunter, and I'm from Scotland originally. I've been in America about 25 years. I came to Washington State to open a golf course in Sammamish, Washington called Aldera. And we had a really lucrative caddy program there, which really put a lot of use through a program called Evans Scholarship. Now, the Evans Scholarship is a program that not many people have heard of, and it goes unused many, many times, many years. And it's a program where if you do enough caddy loops, you are going to get a full ride scholarship to whatever school you want, completely paid. Completely paid. It's spectacular. And I feel very passionate about the youth, and you talk about the kids, and you talk about the programs there. I have put so many youth through a full ride education at top schools through the Evans Scholarship, and I continue to do that at the golf course that I'm at currently. It is my hope and my wife and her family that we will come and live and be part of this community and run this program. And I'm very passionate about the youth and giving them opportunity and hope, and also the church in the area. And I really want to support everything in this local town. And if you don't want us here, you just let us know. But believe me, we're here for goodness. And with this caddy program, it's going to give your youth an opportunity that maybe possibly they don't have right now, and they're going to see this potential, and you're going to break the mold. And I've seen it growing up I grew up in a really small fishing village, the Isle of Skye in Scotland. It's a very small fishing village, only about 1,000 people. And the golf club there was the community of that place. And the school and the headmaster and the church and everything, they really brought home all the good things that bring to a local fishing community. And I promise you, I worked all my life in golf, and bringing the Evans Scholarship here and introducing your youth to this potential that a lot of people don't know that's out there is life-changing and will break the mold. And Ryan and I talk about it all the time, about how we really feel passionate about this program. We do, but we also feel like we've spent so much investment and so much time into it that we really feel like we feel like we're part of the community almost already, even though we're not. But we want to get in here and try and make this change. So I hope and sincerely pray that you'll all see that we're coming from a goodness, and I hope that you will support this program.
Can I possibly get a show of hands about how many more people want to comment? I know we have a gentleman in the back. Couple, 1 or 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm just trying to gauge. Okay, we'll keep going.
Yeah, just a real simple question, maybe not, just kind of a curious question about the property itself. Is it state land, from what I understand? Is the developer, are they purchasing this property? So there is no tax base. I keep on seeing a trend that seems to happen here in Washington. It's as the state acquires more land and the tribes acquire more land, there's less tax. The infrastructure seems to the expense of it rolls on to the landowners, the property owners in the community. And I just wondering, you know, my question is, it's not going to be privately owned.
I can go further into that if you want to.
Just wondered how that pans out. Yeah. The future of how it's contribute to the community.
Just trying to be useful. Just walk around.
Awesome. Yeah, so it's publicly owned by the state. So as Kevin alluded to earlier, there's no tax revenue coming in. It's tax exempt, my understanding. And so this development and the recreational concession agreement that we would put together. Now, none of this is finalized, but our concept is that a sort of user fee tax, which is basically how, for those of you familiar with Chambers Bay, which is owned by Pierce County owns Chambers Bay, I believe. And they have a daily, basically, like if you're paying 10% tax, they charge an additional 5% tax for all users that goes into the recreational concession lease. And then additionally, all of the users that stay on property are going to be paying additional hotel taxes that go directly to the city of Westport. And then we anticipate, because this will be woefully under served by hotel rooms, that there will be an encouraged, and we've already seen activity of other entrepreneurs taking a look at opening other hotel or resort experiences, but there will be additional hotel taxes raised through our activities. You want to just shout it? Yeah. Like if you wanted to stay in a hotel or play around a golf? Yeah, so he's asking if as a Westport resident, if you use the facility, will you have to pay the tax? So I don't know the answer to that question. My understanding is what do you got? Well, the incentive for local involvement and use is a substantially lower rate for being able to use it. Now, whether or not locals will pay that user fee, obviously you wouldn't pay a hotel tax because they got you to stay in a hotel. Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. Well, so I don't think we would be paying income tax on any of the revenues that we create like any other business would. So it's a lease, basically our involvement with parks, like any business with a landowner, would be entering into a lease agreement. So this wouldn't, I don't want it to be perceived as it's free rent. It's not.
Would you generate property tax that pay schools or facility?
Once again, this is a state-owned piece of land. So, right, I think Kevin established that earlier, that the state land is exempt from property taxes. And so in a situation that we have today where there's no taxes at all being generated, we have an opportunity to generate, through the economic impact of 30 million a year. I appreciate that.
So would the golf course be exempt from property taxes? Because it's on state.
No, we would not be, because we would be citing our infrastructure. That's actually a really good point. The only infrastructure going on public land would be the minimal, amount of irrigation, which would all be underground. And see that the majority of the infrastructure of hotel amenities, clubhouse, maintenance facility would be cited on private land. That my understanding would be taxed just like any other business or any other landowner.
So I'm Margot Tackett, I'm clerk treasurer for the city of Westport. So trying to address the tax issue. So all government agencies are exempt from property tax that own property in the state of Washington. But the state has an RCW that requires all leasees to pay a leasehold tax, which the state gets a percentage, the school gets a percentage, and the city gets a percentage. So that kind of answers where to go. His question as far as the leasee will pay a leasehold tax to the state that would be divvied out to all the different agencies that get property tax now. That's the whole intent of that, is that they pay a property tax that the state or the city or a government agency isn't paying right now because they're using that property.
Hi, I'm Brian Olson. I'm local. A few years ago, I built houses in the area and have a hotel coming up. I wanted to say thank you for bringing this to Westport, and I think it's absolutely genius and great for the town. I did have one thing I was wondering. I grew up in Snoqualmie Ridge. You're probably familiar with the golf course called TPC. In 2004, the social membership there was $5,000 a year, and the golf membership was upwards of $40,000. And then there was regular fees. We weren't able to afford to go and eat in the restaurant there or use the driving range. So I was wondering really about the fee structure. I think it's important to get that set up before you go too far forward and those local people can actually afford to use it. Because a lot of people in Snoqualmie Ridge, pretty high in place, couldn't use TPC.
That's the main differentiation between Westport Golf and Snoqualmie Ridge. Snoqualmie Ridge is a private country club. This is by no means private. This is a public. It's a public golf course, public facility, and part of our plan in working with the parks is coming up with a rate structure that encourages locals and gives them preferred rates that are substantially below what you would argue the general public rate, non-resident rate. They have a very successful program at Chambers Bay. The Pierce County residents get a deeply discounted green fee and access. And like we mentioned, we have several different opportunities to enjoy the experience in different entry points from the driving range to the short course to the championship golf course. But to your point, we want to encourage and really want this golf experience and the entire project to be something that's a source of civic pride. And if there was any, the idea of an exclusionary type rate structure is antithetical towards our approach. We want people to use this and enjoy it and feel like it's theirs. So we will come up with an attractive rate structure that will allow residents to benefit from this.
Thanks. I thought of another question that I've heard a lot about. In the presentation that you did at Chelan on I think the 16th of November, one of the things you talked about was how you would be taking out the paved pathway, or this was the current plan, taking out the paved pathway along the ocean front. We generally call it the oceanfront trail, and you would be replacing that, I think, with a compacted gravel path that wound around the greens. So that would be then the public access path. Would you be able to speak a bit about that and explain why you would need to take that out? Because I think that's something that a lot of local people are concerned about.
So no decision's been made whatsoever. I mean, the key is accessibility and really not disrupting the bike riders, the pedestrians. So the idea is, it's all it is an idea is that when we bring the course and bring some of the golf holes closer to the course, it's not going to become a straight line as it is now. But if you look at some of the renderings, it's still going to be along the Floridian where it is. Through we're bringing on a landscape architect that thinks that the trail itself maybe wants to meander, maybe wants to have a little bit of bends in there to kind of give it more life, maybe so it's not just such a straight line. But the idea is that our goal is not to disrupt. If it becomes more hard packed asphalt, I mean, we're going to be looking at all options. I think that was just one idea, is creating a trail that maybe is a little bit more pervious, but if that's not the option, and we stick with something similar to what's there now, it's still on the table. So it's appreciate your concern, and we know how important that trail is to the citizens.
I'll add one thing too. We are obviously very sensitive to that trail, and we've heard concern about it. The idea of whatever changes that might have to the trail might have to accommodate would be done in such a fashion that we would make every effort possible to never close the trail and do our whatever augmentation or changes before rerouting the trail. So we don't want to disrupt public access to that trail. The trail would be built first before the other one would be taken out of commission.
Why would that need to be taken out of commission, period? Just curious. I do use that trail every single day.
Yeah, well, what we're talking about is augmenting it and improving it. And based on some of the, we talk about this environmentally driven design and designing the golf course based on what's out there, as opposed to trying to make the land accommodate what we want. So in that study, and this is still a process. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but we anticipate, and with the idea of making it a more meandering sort of discovery trail, that the existing layout of it would change.
Part of what I love about it is that I can see the ocean the majority of the time while I'm on there. It's not the meandering, it's that like that.
Yeah, we don't want to take that away. That's not our intent.
Could something be built in addition to this, and this just be left intact as that may be considered?
No, and that's why we're here today, is to get input and for the discussion points when we design this. So it's all good feedback.
But also plan to state, even though that is a trail,
And it's public trail, and this is all public land, so even if that trail is redone and relocated, since it's public land, we will always have the right as the public to be able to use that trail. We can go have a picnic on it, even though it's still a golf course. We can go and have a picnic in the greens or in the fairway. Be like, hey, we're having a picnic because it's public land. They want to change our trail, we can still go there. I mean, so they should at least try to keep the public really loves. So we don't start going to do that. To go.
Plan on being open year round?
Yes, that's actually one of the compelling, I talked to Kevin and the mayor about shoulder season economics. And one of the nice things about Link Style, this particular project that we're putting together is guys like me like to play in the rain and the wind and when it's cold.
They did it in Scotland too.
Yeah, well,
And the wind's low.
so there will be a people that come visit this in the off season, attract business year round.
There's a gentleman that's going to.
Hi, my name is John Logan, and I've lived here about going on 12 years, and I've been coming down here for about 20 years. And I surf, and I walk around and what would be the golf course. I have a question. In my mind, I thought that the golf course was going to be more to what would be the east. And if I'm understanding you, it's kind of going to parallel what is currently the trail that goes north-south from the condos to West Haven. And so it's going to be a rather narrow strip of land. Is that the case? Okay, why is that over there?
Let's use the mic.
I'm gonna try to have folks use the microphone because I'm not sure everybody has different hearing abilities. So did you have an additional question?
The other thing is that I have noticed, I live in reasonable proximity to the ocean on the dune. I live south of the golf course. I just live just outside. We just live outside the city limits by about 2 blocks. And we're one road back from houses. And I walk to our beach. We have a deeded trail. I go back and forth that beach 3 or 4 or 5, 6 times a week. And I've watched that dune. When I bought property, when we bought property here, I talked to the county and said, so what's the deal? This real estate here on the beach is it going to go away? Sorry. Is it going to go away or is it going to, what's happening? They said, oh, no, it's increasing. I said, well, I didn't know what that actually meant. But, well, it's actually the sand is building up. And that was true for a couple of years. Recently, Mother Nature decided that she wants it back. And so we've probably lost, I guess, conservatively 40 feet of dune, meaning that we are now right at the crest of the last high ridge of the sand dune. What goes on behind that is now there's a dip. So I've watched at the condos, they've had a miserable time with the erosion along their coast. And what they have done is fantastic, except for at the edges of it, it's being torn to pieces. And that happens. You watch this coastline, it happens. A friend of mine told me, if you look at what the ocean wants to do, it wants a straight line up and down the coast. And if you look, that's pretty much what's happened. Today I went down to our beach, and usually this time of year we have at least 5 or 6 foot of elevation. Currently, a small child could walk up and down what would be the bank. So what's going to happen is a 10 or 11 foot high tide with monster storms, it's going to rush through what once was an embankment, and it's going to jet out and backfill all of that with water and eventually wipe it out. I think you guys are doing an incredible job. I really believe that you have the best interest of not only this community, but of course your project, and you're trying to think of everything you can and are willing to invest and do what's needed to do. And I applaud you for that. I think it's a great idea. I just would not want it to fail because of wanting a goal and not doing what it takes and not really looking at it in a serious fashion, because it's too easy. I mean, you know, Washaway Beach is another prime example. Heck, they built 3 jetties in a large hole just the other day. And this last one has kind of survived. It's an ongoing process, and that's why I'm asking about the proximity to the coastline. It's probably takes so much to do.
No, thanks, John. To address your first question, so we're actually it's kind of interesting. We are definitely aware of these coastal processes, and in the next, there was a baseline evaluation looking at the 100-year projections of kind of risk assessments. We're going to kind of dig to a really fine grained level of, because it's also about protecting investment and making this thing feasible and making sure there's longevity. So I can assure you that we have a coastal engineer who is going to be looking at this and really looking at where do we want to be in proximity to the ocean, and where does this infrastructure want to be, and really making sure that we're looking long term. We're looking 50 years out, 100 years out, and so that's definitely a really important part of our next step of evaluations. Specifically to why are the courses where they are? Well, we're trying to avoid these wetlands. These are these coastal willow swamps, and this is all about avoidance and minimization. So we're trying to find the upland areas. These are areas that are set back of the foredune. The foredune is where that stays intact. We don't touch those higher elevation areas. So that's the reason why we're tightening up the golf program, and we're trying to minimize our impacts, avoid more of these high and valuable wetland assets within the park, and fitting a golf experience that, you know, it kind of creates that world-class experience. So it's a balancing act. And right now we're kind of fine-tuning it, getting great impact from you folks. And in a few months, we should have we'll have a more refined plan that takes in the additional coastal analysis and then also looks to further minimize impact. So that's kind of the job we have at hand.
Hi, my name is Yudi Mohan, and my question to you is people with disabilities, access to the trails, and just keeping that in mind, because that path that we go on, a lot of us go on it every day. We see a lot of wheelchair people, lots of people that come from the community that come and use that trail. So I would just ask you to be considerate of the people with disabilities to be able to use that.
I think it goes without saying that we encourage everybody to have full access to that. So I think we're also working with the city of Westport and ultimately what to do here. We're working with the city of Westport. I mean, anything that we do ultimately is going to go through the city of Westport for approval. So assure that your elected officials are looking out for everybody. We would never consider putting something there that wasn't accessible. And I don't know if it's required by code, but it would be against what our intent is. So you can be assured that whatever, yeah, it will be accessible.
Thank you. Mike Coverdale from Westport here. I grew up here. I moved home 30 years ago. I want to thank you all for all that you're doing in this project. And I'm really thankful for a community that's willing to turn out. I've been involved in a lot of things over the years, and this turnout's awesome. I just like to see a show of hands of people that are positive and in favor of this project going forward in our community. Thanks. And a round of applause for the team putting it together.
Okay, so I just wanted to note that we've got about 15 minutes left. Maybe we'll take 1 or 2 more comments.
All right, my question is, on this map that you showed, we live in the neighborhood. I mean, the whole reason we moved here 4 years ago is because we retired. Now, what is the impact of the traffic going to be on our neighborhood? We're like, where are you going to put the hotel there on Forest? That's just, you know, right north, right from my front door. I mean, I just want to know, how is this going to affect our neighborhoods? All this extra people.
No, we really appreciate that, and that's part of the reason why we're actually going through this environmental impact EIS, environmental impact study process, because we do acknowledge that this is a big proposed land use change that has potential ancillary impacts. So we are bringing on a traffic consultant that is doing exactly what you're saying, is trying to figure out what is the sustainable traffic volume that creates a balancing in it, and it basically doesn't put undue burden onto the community, and it tries to kind of maintain a balance. So the EIS requires us to bring that study on, and it also is working with the city of Westport just to ensure that it's consistent with their planning, and it's really a highly coordinated effort. So we're definitely looking into that.
Okay, well, I see that some people are starting to trickle out. Yes, I'm going to take one more comment. Here, nobody, not everybody can hear you.
I'm Amy Judkins. I'm a member of the Water Bay Indian Tribe, and I'm also the planner for our tribe. And I helped write the grant to build our tower for vertical evacuation. And I remember the last meeting, I believe that was brought up, and I was wondering if you were still considering building that tower, possibly.
Thanks, Jamie. Yes, we are. We applied for a FEMA grant, approximately $15.5 million grant. Surprised Harry didn't bring that up, but he's been instrumental in our tsunami evacuation committee work. It's still in the FEMA process. So we just completed an archaeological survey of the site. Those results are getting sent to FEMA now. Like a lot of agencies, FEMA works a bit slowly sometimes. But we are what we've been told is that project and where our grant application is at this point doesn't get to that point without getting funded. The thing is going to be, that's been going on for about 2.5 years now. And what the cost, escalated cost is going to be from when we first applied to what those costs are in today's dollars. But the answer to Jamie's questions is yes, we're still working to build a vertical evacuation structure in the Marina District, which could serve about 2,000 people, maybe a few more in a real life emergency, and it would certainly serve all the users of this park. So.
Okay, this is going to be our last question.
Last but not least. So you may or may not be aware, we have a few of us locals that spearheaded a project to get a skate park and a pump track in our community. Yeah, this has been actually ongoing for at least 2 years now. We have blood, sweat, and tears, raised almost $70,000. And that's come through community donations, an event we held, and one day we raised over almost $11,000. And we've applied for grants. Currently, we are waiting to hear on an RCO grant we applied for the WWRP, but we won't know until June 2023. So with that said, we have a lot of local businesses, local just community individuals that have donated. If you guys be willing to donate to our project. For free. Actually, not just kids, but every person that comes to town, every person that lives here of all ages and all abilities on whatever wheeled device they choose to use. So free is better than anything when it's outdoor recreation. So please consider, I can be your contact person. Thank you.
Give me your card, and my next board meeting, I will bring it up with our board members. So we're here to support the community.
I'm just a community member that cares.
Then
We'll connect you
I'll
guys.
get your text, and we'll figure that out. No, I appreciate that.
Okay, and I want to make sure we give a chance for our State Parks Commissioner Mark Brown to make any remarks he would like.
Well, I didn't know I was going to be called on to say anything, so I don't have anything prepared, but on behalf of Commissioner Bounds and myself, first of all, thank you very much for being here, giving us an opportunity again to hear a lot of different opinions, a lot of different views, and obviously we'll take back to our commission colleagues the understanding that there's overwhelming support for this project in this community, right? I also just want to say that I think I want to acknowledge that the mayor, the public works director, trying to think who else was there. Troy, one of your council members was there. Took all the time to come over to Chelan a couple of weeks for our commission meeting and carry your message that we heard tonight to all 7 of our commissioners and let us know the level of interest and support there is in the community for this project. So thank you. Give them a round of applause for doing a great job. Well, I just close by saying that I've had the opportunity to serve on boards and commissions for most of my adult life, lifelong Washingtonian, and I say this in complete honesty. I don't know of any agency that's more open to public participation than state parks. It's just in our DNA. So there's going to be a robust public process going forward. There will be public hearings as we approach that time frame, which was listed on the board, when we'll make a decision to go, no go. A lot of work has to be done between now and then, but you'll all have an opportunity to participate in that process over the next few months. So again, thanks for inviting us to participate in this event, and thank all of you for being here.
Well, I don't think I could have said it any better than Commissioner Brown. So I think we're going to close the evening on behalf of the city of Westport, Westport Golf, Washington State Parks. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you for giving us things to consider. We'll be sending out information about next steps and how you can participate, and just have a wonderful evening. And thank you very much.
Thanks, man. No, you're fine.